Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Her Retirement Lunch and Learn Live with Lynn. Fortunately, the internet is having some kind of glitch where I can't really see myself, so hopefully you all can see me. And I did try to go live at 12:15, but had some internet issues. So you know what? When life serves you up some lemons, you try to make lemonade, and that's what I'm going to do today because I do want to chat with you about the topic of retirement security and some strategies that you can deploy to enjoy a more intentional, financially secure retirement and to help you have more health, wealth, and happiness in the process. Because after all, money is just a tool to help us achieve that retirement we've been dreaming of. And speaking of retirement, some people don't necessarily like the word retirement because they don't plan to retire in the traditional sense. Some people do, completely embrace the concept of retirement. They're like, I'm done working. I don't want to do this anymore. Heck yes, I'm retiring. But then there's other people that want to semi retire, meaning, maybe they want to keep consulting with their company or they want to start a side business, a little part time thing, or pick up a part time job. Or there's people that say, you know what, I never want to retire. I'm kind of in the semi retirement camp and, I believe that working and doing something you really enjoy, that you're passionate about, you can keep doing it for a long time. It's good mentally, physically, it's good for social connections. And it's obviously, if you're making money, good for your pocketbook. It's a good way to, keep your portfolio, your retirement nest egg intact for longer because if you're making 10, 20, even $40,000 a year in those traditional retirement years, that is going to be a big pull off of your retirement nest egg that you don't have to put in place. So your money is going to last longer also. But the caveat is that a lot of people plan to quote work in retirement, like, I don't know, something like 60%. But unfortunately, a much lower percentage actually work in retirement. Maybe because they retire and they realize, oh boy, this is fun. Or mentally, physically, they're just not able to do what they had planned to do in terms of working. So if you were counting on that money, you might want to run a plan B saying, okay, what if I didn't work? What if I wasn't able to work? What would the impact be on my money? Very, very important to analyze those scenarios because as we know, the best laid plans, right? Who knew that we were going to have a pandemic and many of us, wouldn't be able to work? I had a side business and I was counting on that side business to help fund some college education for my twin girls. And yeah, that was an in-person business. And, I couldn't run it. I couldn't rely on that side income for at least a couple of years. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, which is the title of today's live, are 8 strategies to secure your retirement. So, I want to get into those. And I kind of put them under the umbrella term that I've come up with of heroes, appropriately, heroes, HEROS. It is obviously the heroes that we know about, but in this case, it's an acronym that stands for Her Efficient Retirement Optimized Strategies. Now, these heroes are the 8 most important strategies that I've looked at over the last decade being in the retirement education, coaching, and planning space. And I think that done properly and deployed in the right situations, because not all 8 are, going to help you, but you should at least know what they are, understand them, and then have some type of analysis or assessment done to see if implementing these strategies can help you have a better, more intentional, and financially secure retirement. So, I'm going to review these strategies with you, and we're going to jump in. And I like to say that these strategies are really based on science, math, and research. Very important to understand that because a lot of people think, oh, they're just, basic strategies, but there is a lot of science, math, and research behind these. In fact, top academics in the retirement planning space have done a lot of reports and analysis to say that several of these strategies can potentially improve a retiree's outcome. Meaning, in this case, making sure that your money lasts as long as possible. Because when you get into retirement, it's very important to make sure that you have an efficient and sustainable and reliable income source in retirement. So, a lot of these strategies are there to make sure you have the income, make sure that those income sources are as protected as possible because there's so many things in the world that we don't control. So, we have to focus on what we can control. And then it's so important to protect yourself, your money, and your family. For instance, in your working years, if you have a family, a husband, wife, children, they always say, you know what, you need to protect your income. So if something happens to you, it's very important to have life insurance so that your family would still be able to live the same lifestyle if you, God forbid, passed away. So, kind of that same concept, you want to make sure that you protect your retirement income, also protect yourself and protect those you love. So, let's talk about these 8 efficient retirement optimized strategies. Number one, safe savings and a spending strategy. So, I like the concept of spending versus budgeting. A lot of people think about their budgets and they say, oh, I don't like to budget. I don't have a budget. Or I should have a budget. I think it's important to have a spending strategy. And I like the word spending because it doesn't feel like restrictive or something that's, a punishment. um, it's like, yes, I'm going to choose to spend. I'm going to choose to spend on the things that are important to me. So this strategy is looking at what you want to spend your money on, what you need to spend your money on, and make those conscious decisions, of course, aligned with your values. So if something isn't valuable to you, then you shouldn't be spending money on it. So when we work with people and coach them, we start with looking at your spending strategy and also looking at your cash flow, which is the difference between your income and in your expenses to see how positive your cash flow is. You need to know your cash flow, and that ties back into your spending. Now, of course, you also want to maximize your income so that your cash flow is higher. So we talk sometimes with people about, okay, how can we maximize the income, minimize the expenses to improve that cash flow, and in the process have a really good, smart spending plan or strategy. And in my retirement readiness software platform, I have a smarter spending tracking tool where you can go in and enter all your income sources, all your expenses, and track your cash flow and know your cash flow. It's a very, very useful tool, and you can track it down to the dollar, or you can just kind of track it in a general sense, and you don't have to track it, God forbid, daily or even weekly or monthly, but maybe you want to check in every couple months and see if you're on track. The other part of this safe saving and spending strategy is the safety of saving. Okay. So, interest rates have gone up. So, saving in banks and high yield savings accounts are definitely more appealing than they used to be. But it's really important that you have a savings plan for emergencies. So, an emergency fund, a catastrophic fund, whatever you want to call it. But too many Americans don't have an emergency fund. It's very important to have at least 3 to 6 months of your take home pay in an emergency fund. And some people feel comfortable with, more, like maybe 1 year. But it's very important to have it set up and to keep it funded and to use it for those emergencies. Now, some people really get, very detail oriented with their savings. They might have a vacation fund or a gift fund like Christmas, birthdays. I've seen people have non discretionary savings funds and then discretionary. So, non discretionary, maybe they move their money from savings into their checking. And then if expenses happen to be lower that month, then they have a little more to push over into retirement savings or whatever it is they might want to do. Um, but setting up those savings accounts, whatever they're going to be, is very important. But at the end of the day, the most important is to have that emergency fund set up. So that's number one, safe saving and spending strategy. Super important and a great place to start. And that's why it is hero number one. Number two is a semi retirement strategy. So I talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but this is working to continue earning. It's a valid strategy, especially with longevity and with women because we do tend to live longer than men. And if you can find something that you enjoy doing and you're making money doing it, that's a win-win, right? It's good for you mentally, physically, and financially. So I put it on here as a strategy because I meet so many women that may want to leave their corporate career, maybe sell their businesses, and they want to start something else. They don't want to work for anyone any longer. Women over the age of 50 are starting businesses at 3 times the rate of other parts of the population. And, this people want to take this into those traditional retirement years and they want to just keep doing it. I have a good friend who's a realtor. She's cutting back her hours now, but she wants to continue doing real estate. I talked to a health coach the other day, a life coach. So many people want to just keep doing something to earn some money in retirement. And it is a very powerful strategy for making sure that you don't run out of money. Number three is protected growth investment strategy. And why I say protected is because as you get closer to retirement and you get older, you have less time to make up for the market volatility that is prevalent in the stock market. So over time, the stock market has been, the highest earning investment strategy you could have in place. However, the stock market's very volatile. But when you have a longer time horizon, you can endure the ups and downs of the market. But when you get into retirement, when you're counting on that nest egg in particular in those investments from your 401k or your IRA, you two things. One is if the market drops and you're counting on all of that money for your income's going to drop and your lifestyle is going to drop. Whereas in retirement, in pre retirement, when you're working and you're just socking some money away in the nest egg and you're not living off that nest egg, you're living off your working income. If the market drops, yeah, you're kind of like, oh my God, like, how long is this going to last? I don't want to see my retirement savings drop 30%, but at least you have time for it to recover before you need to rely on it. So the issue is when you are relying on that nest egg that has too much exposure to the stock market and the volatility that's inherent in the stock market, you can't, you probably don't want to take a hit to your income and your lifestyle. The second part of that is you don't have as long as a time horizon. So let's assume you weren't relying on that money. Perhaps you were continuing to do some work. Maybe you took your Social Security and the stock market drops, and you're like, well, it's not a big deal because I'm not really drawing out of that nest egg yet for retirement income. Well, it might take quite a while for that to come back. And when there's a dip, it takes like twice as long for the market for your account to come back to where it was. So yeah, you really don't have that time horizon. So that's the second issue with having too much of your nest egg exposed to the stock market and volatility. So that is why I call it a protected growth investment strategy. It's basically allows you to minimize risk but still enjoy some growth. Okay. So I have a much longer discussion on that in my master course that you can check out on the Her Retirement website. But I go very deep into each of these strategies in that master course. But this one in particular is very important for you to understand. It's important for you to understand market volatility, sequence of return risk, interest rate risk, inflation. And it's very important to have your portfolio allocated properly, whether your portfolio is in a 401k or an IRA. This is like, okay, I've put a lot of money into my 401k over time. I've done a great job. I'm getting ready to retire in 5 years. What do I do with it? How do I keep it with my employer? Do I roll it into a self-directed IRA? Do I do a Roth conversion? Like, how do I do it? And then how is it allocated? And it's very important to look at the allocations with an expert, a retirement advisor who is licensed and registered to give investment advice, and to come up with a hybrid strategy that minimizes risks but allows you to enjoy some growth. And I have a much longer discussion on that. I call it a personal pension, excuse me, a personal pension and protection plan. And so I have a whole section on that in my master course where you can learn about a personal pension and protection plan that can, help you create that retirement income for life and not be stressed out and exposed to too much stock market exposure. So that's number 3. Number 4 is a retirement income strategy. This is all about creating guaranteed tax efficient income for life. So when you have a retirement income strategy, you know all of your income sources, you know where they're going to come from, you know when you're going to turn them on, because depending upon what you have for retirement income sources, there's different points of time where you can turn them on. Perfect example is Social Security. So you could turn on your Social Security income as early as 62. But there's a number of important questions to help you make the decision as to whether 62 makes sense. Um, One, and probably the most important, which we don't know, but we have to guess, is longevity. How long you plan to live. That's an important question. Another question for deciding when to time your Social Security income or when to turn it on is if you continue to work, right? Because if you continue to work and you make over the minimum amount, then your Social Security is reduced $1 for every $2 you earn over the limit, which is like $22,000 for 22,340 for 2024. So Social Security is just one income source. It's considered a guaranteed income source, and you know, part of this planning or this strategy is deciding when to turn that on. Um, Another one could be pensions. So you may have pension income. Another one could be what's called a HECM, which is another acronym, home equity conversion mortgage, and it's a type of reverse mortgage that can be a guaranteed income source in retirement, as well as annuities. So you can have guaranteed annuities, which basically means that you give an insurance company a lump sum of money, and in return, they're going to give you a guaranteed income for life. Obviously, it depends on how much you give them, is how much they're going to give you in income, but it is guaranteed and there's no exposure to the stock market. So, those are some income sources that are popular. Those are guaranteed income sources, but then you have other income sources like the one I mentioned, which was working. Another one could be inheritance, be money from rental income. And then, of course, the biggest one for most people is back to the investments is your IRAs, your 401ks, 457s, 403bs. Those accounts can be turned into income streams, and most often they are. But part of the income planning strategy is knowing at what point to turn the income on and how do you take the money out of those accounts, right? There's a number of different withdrawal strategies from those retirement savings accounts. And part of that is a good segue into tax strategy. So withdrawing those monies in a tax efficient manner, but also saving and investing for retirement in a more tax diversified way is very important. So, as an example, if you put all your money in a tax deferred account like 401k, you're going to have a big tax obligation later on down the road. The government's going to force you to take the money out eventually if you don't take it out on your own after 59 and a half, in some cases 55. But it's very important that you look at tax diversification as you're saving for retirement because, in addition to those tax deferred accounts, perhaps you want to contribute monies to something like a Roth IRA, Roth 401k, where you're not getting the tax benefit up front, but you're going to be able to take out your money in retirement tax free. Another really great place under the tax strategy to sock away some money is a health savings account. The money goes in tax free, the money grows tax free, and you can take the money out tax free. Great, great place to save for healthcare expenses in retirement and an important part of your tax strategy. So that's number five is tax planning for retirement. And I always say, why pay more in taxes than you have to if you can implement some unique and little known tax tactics to help you keep more? It's about keeping more in your pocket. And there are some legal, legitimate ways to do that. All right. Strategy number six is the protection strategy, right? I talked at the beginning how important it is to not only optimize and maximize your investments and your income, but you also want to protect. And the way to protect yourself, your money, and your family is through making sure you have the proper health care, making sure you make the right Medicare choices. If you plan to collect Social Security at 62, how are you going to cover the gap between 62 and 65? So that's an important part of the planning that needs to be taken into consideration. Long-term care, like, if you suffer, someone, your spouse suffers a long-term care incident, how are you going to fund that? Another important consideration. And life insurance, right? You need to make sure that you are protected with your life insurance strategies. So, um, another impact I want to mention on this kind of straddles tax versus Medicare topic is the IRMA, income related monthly adjustment amount. So, part of your strategy needs to make sure that you're not going to be one of those higher income earners in retirement who could be subject to the income related monthly adjustment amount. And that's basically a surcharge that Medicare charges you if you're above certain income limits. And what can trigger that? Well, those required minimum distributions. So, as you approach 75 and you're pulling out those monies because you have to out of those deferred accounts, that could trigger that could trigger an IRMA. It's hard to say together. That could trigger an IRMA surcharge. So I had one woman that I know in particular. She got a bill for like $500 a month, and she got that was the IRMA, and it was quite an expensive shock, and no one had told her about it, and no one had looked at some strategies to help protect her from the IRMA surcharge. So there were some things she could have done, but she just didn't know about them. Okay, number seven is a giving strategy. Many people don't think about this, but there are lots of people that want to give. They have extra, and it's important for them to choose causes and things that are important to them, right? So perhaps it's giving to your local dog shelter, perhaps it's giving to the Dana Farber Cancer Institute, or your alma mater, or whatever it is. It's important that if you have the extra, or you want to work it into your retirement spending plan, to have a giving strategy. And there are some charitable contribution benefits that you can look at to help you get some breaks on your generosity. So, a giving strategy is number seven. And then number eight is your legacy strategy. So, I have a whole section on the Her Retirement website where it's under www.getherwilldone.com, and when you go there, it's a whole package of resources for you. There's a webinar on estate planning. There's an estate planning checklist. There's access to our preferred trust and will provider that you can hook up with and save a lot of money on a trust and will. But your legacy strategy is, your estate plan, your trust, your will. making sure your beneficiaries are up to date, making sure your healthcare proxy is up to date. And the second part of this is leaving money to your heirs in the most beneficial manner to them in a tax efficient manner. So making sure that you have a plan for that. Some people say, well, I'm not leaving my kids anything. I'm spending the inheritance. Other people say, no, I do really want to leave my children something. There are some ways to spend the kids' inheritance and leave them an inheritance. You can do that through life insurance. So the legacy strategy and the protection strategy kind of overlap when you want to look at that. Perhaps that's a inexpensive way to, you know, uh, live your life, live your retirement, spend all your money, and leave the kids an inheritance. And then the third part of the legacy strategy that's important to identify is what are your wishes? What are the things that you want to leave either emotional things you want to leave, intellectual property, ideas, thoughts, love letters, I call them, to your loved ones. Also identifying, your end of life wishes, where you want to be buried. Do you want to be cremated? What are the important belongings that you have that you want to leave behind? And I also have in that getherwilldone.com part of the website uh, a tool that I think is very valuable. I call it the Her Personal Info and Emergency Planner. It's over 100 pages. It is a document that has all of your important information, personally, legally, financially, end of life wishes. There's love letters you can write in there, memories you want to share, where your passwords are, your bank accounts, everything that you would want your executor or your loved ones to know, what they need to know to keep calm and carry on in the event you're incapacitated, or when you pass away from this earth. So that's a very valuable tool that you can access as part of the legacy strategy. So those are the 8 her efficient retirement optimized strategies. Just to review them real quick: number 1, safe saving and spending strategy. 2 is the semi-retirement strategy. 3 is the protected growth investment strategy. 4 is the retirement income strategy, where you're maximizing all your income sources like social securities, pensions, home equity, leveraging, the equity in your home through the reverse mortgage, and perhaps creating a personal pension plan, another tough one to say, and then leveraging any other income sources like rental properties or inheritances, things like that. Number 5 is the tax strategy. Number 6 is the protection strategy. Number 7 is your giving strategy. And number 8 is your legacy strategy. Now you can go to my masterclass. It's a free masterclass on the Her Retirement website. And I go over these strategies. I talk a little bit more in detail about them in that free masterclass. Or if you would like to learn in depth information and get really smart about each of these strategies, you can go and purchase my master course that you can also access on the Her Retirement website. It is 8 modules, probably about 10 hours of on demand video lessons that I teach, along with a really I guess I would call it an abundant resource portal with all kinds of workbooks and white papers and videos and tools and resources that complement the master course. And when you purchase the master course, you also get access to my retirement readiness software platform. I already mentioned the smarter spending tracking tool that's there, but the main benefit of the platform is that you can take a complete inventory of everything you have financially, legally, and the software will come back and identify your gaps, your risks, and your opportunities. It will produce like a 40 to 50 page PDF, which I call a personalized retirement book for you, identifying those gaps, risks, and opportunities. So, instead of going to Barnes and Noble and purchasing, a generic book on retirement, you could go into the software, enter all of your personal information, and the software is going to come back and produce a book customized to you, identifying those gaps, risks, and opportunities. And speaking of books, I do want to recommend that you pick up this generic book, Retirement Solved. It's I say you've got questions, we've got answers. So this book is about 186 pages long. There are 90 questions in 15 different categories, and it covers a lot of the statistics and information and research on the strategies that I talked about, in addition to a lot of other topics, um, such as debt. Something is very important to a lot of people, but there's a lot of valuable information in this book, and you can grab this on my website also. So as I wrap up today, I want to give you a quote from one of the top retirement researchers in the industry. His name is Dr. Wade Pfau. And he says that most advisors out there in the financial world concentrate solely on managing investments, which is true because, there's a 300,000 financial advisors out there in the world, and many of them are focused on just managing assets. They're focused on the accumulation phase of life when you're building that nest egg. However, not many of them understand or take the time or skilled to understand and incorporate all the intricate retirement strategies that must be considered and potentially utilized to dramatically increase the probability of a retiree's success. So, these 8 strategies that I talked about, maybe your investment guy isn't going to talk to you about any of them. He may not bring up the fact that you could leverage your home equity, or that you could, have some interesting tax strategies, or when to claim your social security. I've heard some pretty interesting stories of investment people giving retirement advice that really was not correct or accurate. So you just have to be careful with who you're talking with. I have a guide to advisors as part of the master course. And the value of that is that it gives you a checklist to talk to an advisor about and to vet that advisor to see if he or she is able to help you with all these strategies that could potentially put you in a better position in retirement. So, if you want to have a better, more intentional, and financially secure retirement, I highly recommend that you go check out the resources that I offer here in my YouTube channel. I'm on TikTok if you like really short videos. I have all kinds of content on my website. I have the Her Retirement podcast that I do every other week, where we talk about health, wealth, and happiness topics. I have my free masterclass that you can go check out on the Her Retirement website, and that 8 module master course. And then, of course, if you need more beyond that, then you can work with me on coaching. I do offer a number of different coaching programs. And if you then want more in terms of investment advice, insurance advice, and really planning, the financial aspects of how you're going to create that income for life, then I can connect you with some tremendous resources to help you get her done. So reach out to me when you're ready to know more, have more, and live more. I'm here to help you. I can direct you to those educational resources, those coaching resources, and connections, and my private Facebook community where I post a lot of great stuff there too. So thanks for watching this week's live, and my apologies if you tuned in at 12:15 and I wasn't there, or you saw the short live stream that I had to end due to technical issues, but I'm glad I was able to get this in. And even though I can't see myself, hopefully you all could see me, and you get some ideas and inspiration out of this week's Lunch and Learn live with Lynn. Thanks.